going on, guys? Welcome to the Dynamic Leaders page. I'm Norman Harmon, and I'm so excited to have you here with me. Look, we have a great topic, and I'm looking forward to it. Stress, the cousin of fear. And I know when you hear that, you're wondering where in the world I'm going with this topic, but just dive right into it, and let's have some fun. So there are three things that I want to discuss as we have our conversation today. Firstly, let's define stress. Secondly, let's discuss how stress and fear are related. And lastly, let's talk about how to deal with stress. And no, this is not just talk about stress management or the management of stress. And if you feel that you've heard this conversation before, come to the conversation with a clean slate. I promise you're going to learn something that you can use. So first, let's define stress. How do we define stress? I define stress as the weight of unfulfilled responsibility. The weight of unfulfilled responsibility. What does that mean? Right now, while you're listening to me, there are some things on your plate that probably needed to be done like yesterday, and you're wondering or trying to figure out how you're going to get those things done. You're juggling so many different things, wearing so many hats, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get it all done. And that worry or concern that you have adds or comes with a certain amount of weight and pressure that we don't always deal with in the best way. And all of that we define or we call stress. So it's important to understand stress or understand what stress is, because if we don't understand what stress is, we're not going to always recognize it, or we miss opportunities to deal with and manage stress. Stress is not just one-dimensional, but we deal with stress in a lot of different areas. There's work-related stress. There's stress within the home. There's stress within the community work. There's stress within church. There's stress in relationships and friendships. There's stress in all different areas, and it's important to know how to juggle that stress. So the first nugget is that you have to have a balance in the different areas of your life. You have to have a not just work-life or home-life balance, but you have to have a balance between your volunteerism and your friendships, your true friendships. You have to have a balance, a cohesion between all these different areas that you're in. And a balance is not just an equal percentage in every area, but it means that you're managing all of these areas in such a way that things aren't consistently slipping through the cracks. Okay, so that's the first, is maintaining a good balance. Secondly, we want to deal with how stress and fear are related. Yes, even cousins, okay? So I want to give credit here to Tony Robbins. This guy's a great speaker, business mogul. He's doing all sorts of things all over the world. And I love listening to great speakers, great men and women who know how to pull out points of wisdom out of the smallest things that we can add to our lives. And so in this specific talk, Tony was talking about stress, and he was talking about fear. And he made a profound statement. He says, show me your stress and I can trace it back to a fear. And when I dove in or involved myself in the exercise, I found that that was true for me. I look at different things that I was stressed about, or different things that I was worried and concerned about, and I found that all of those different things were linked to fear. So I want you to think about places where you have stress. Okay, let's talk or just deal with stress in the workplace. So you have demands that are placed on you on the workplace by a boss or a higher up. Maybe there's a lot of paperwork or even demands from your customers, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get all these different things done. So you're stressed. So what is the fear that is directly linked to this stress? Okay, so if you don't do a good job, or if you don't respond to customers in a timely manner, what happens? Ultimately, you're fired by the workplace, or you're fired by the customer, which the common denominator there is a loss of income. So the true fear is that you're going to lose income, not be able to provide for your needs, or not be able to be engaged in the things that you really want to do. And so when we trace it back, or we really trail it back, we can see how fear in the workplace is really related to a loss of income. Let's deal with another type of fear. Maybe your fear is not the loss of income. Maybe you have income, you have residual income, you have income in other places, and work is just something you go to do. Well, the pressures and demands may be holding you back from the time that you want to spend with your family, or time volunteering in the community, doing things that are meaningful to you. So what is the fear that is related there? The fear then related to the workplace is that you won't have time to create the memories that you want to create. And later in life, when you go back to reflect on things, you won't be able to reflect on the type of meanings, doing things, or memories doing things that are valuable to you. And that's very important, that you understand the linkage between the fear and the stress that's going on. And that's invaluable when you start to go through your life and you start to diagnose, or maybe through this video or through talking to someone, help truly come down to the common denominator. Boil things down to the common denominator. Why? So you can deal with them, right? We don't just want to continue to be stressed out, pulling our hair out, in which case I have none on the top of my head. I do have a nice beard here. But we don't want you to continue to stress out, not knowing how to deal with that stress, which leads us to the next point. How do we deal with stress? Okay? How do we appropriately navigate or move around stress? But before we do that, I want to share with you my own stress story. So I'm going to say something that a lot of people and a lot of speakers probably will not say to you, but it is absolutely true. And it's the fact that you do not get rid of stress. And I'm going to be even more specific. You do not get rid of negative stress. There's no such thing as 100% elimination of negative stress. We're going to deal with stress. First of all, there is positive stress. And I think we all are aware of what positive stress is. You go to the gym, you put stress on your muscle. It helps you build muscle, and it helps you to build strength. It also helps with your cardiovascular system, all those different things, that stress and resistance. Good stress, absolutely. There's also a certain amount of good stress that you place on yourself that brings out the best in you. My brother-in-law, Tony Faison, always says pressure makes people great. I believe that as well. When you put a certain amount of pressure, or you put a deadline to something, and you really are competitive and trying to get that done, it pulls greatness out of you. So I like positive stress, but also there is negative stress that we cannot avoid. Why is that? Simply because there are variables that are unknown to us until they are entered in the equation. There are things that happen in our day that we can't plan for, that we don't know until we know, right? You wake up in the morning, the car won't start. You come home, the lights are cut off. Your children, you get a call from the school because your child was involved in a fight or involved in something that you taught them better. Or you say, I taught you better than that. I've given you home training. So all these different things that we don't plan for create negative stress. And since we can't get away from negative stress, we have to figure out how to deal with it. So back to my story, I did not forget. This morning I had a stress situation where, yes, I was stressing out over something that really I had to calm down about. So first off, this morning, I had to take care of some things that I really didn't plan to take care of. I mentioned the flat tire. Had a flat tire that needed to go and take care of. Was working on a relationship with a business, or a particular business owner, trying to get some things going so that we can get this particular venture moving. Working with another relationship in the community. We weren't seeing eye to eye on something. And so all of these different things were coming together at the same time while we were trying to get the kids ready and out the house. And it just created a lot of stress. And I reacted to that stress, not in a huge way, but in a way that I didn't want to act, because I want to be in control of myself. I want to be in control of my actions. I want to be in control of my attitude. Why? Because when I'm in control of my actions, in control of my attitude, I am on fire and I feel unstoppable. And hopefully you feel the same way too. And so I had to take a moment to get by myself and really think about it, put into practice what I had learned. I wanted to figure out, why in the world was I dealing with this stress? What was the fear directly related to the stress? So in the business relationship, obviously it's money related. The sooner we take care of business, the sooner we're able to get paid and we're able to be happy. Bingo. That's very simple. We already talked about that. The community relationship, we were coming up against some deadlines. And I want to make sure that we put our best foot forward and that we communicated value. Okay, so the fear was that people would devalue the content that we're going to put out. Okay, so a loss of value that ultimately reflects on me, and I don't want to be viewed as less than or devalued. Same as you. And then lastly, of course, just the loss of time and not being able to get that time back to do the things that I plan to do today. Because why? If I don't do the things that I want to do today, then it creates a ripple effect for tomorrow. And I want to be on par. I want to be on schedule with my goals and the things that I have planned to do. So those things created stress, and that was the fear that was directly related to the stress. So how do I deal with stress? Or how did I deal with stress this morning? I went back to a landmark. My landmark is always feeding my brain or mental health, okay? And I want to make sure that I have a healthy mind, that I have a healthy functioning mind, brain that's shooting out ideas, that's firing on all cylinders. So how do you ensure a healthy mind? You have to manage what you feed your mind. You have to manage what you're listening to. As I already mentioned, I love listening to great speakers because I have a lot going on. I'm involved in a lot of things. I have my own businesses. I have my own ventures. I'm doing things in the community. I have a full-time job. I'm working in ministry. I have a family. All of those things, right? And so it's important for me to stay motivated. So I listen to great motivational speakers that can say, you know what, Norman, ultimately what they're saying, you can do it. You can handle it. There's no amount of stress that's been placed on you that you can't handle. And I'm also a Christian, and I do work in the Christian field. So when I combine those two together and I listen to a Christian guy, a Christian man or woman that is also a motivator, it gets me back in line faster because it's even more closely aligned with what I'm doing. In other words, they're speaking my language. So it's not just important that you get great content going in general. It's important that you get great information in which people are speaking your language. In other words, let's say you are a manager. If you're a business manager within a specific field, you need to be listening to people that are within that field. If you are a business owner, you need to be listening to business owners that are within your field, doing it at a higher level than you're doing it. Why? Because if they're doing things at a higher or greater level or a grand level, then they're probably dealing with more stress than you are. And so if you see someone that's carrying the weight of stress well, follow them, because there are some things that you can pick up from that person that you can add to your repertoire and use for yourself, use for your benefit. It's very important. So getting information, having that mental health, but making sure that you're getting specific information in which people are speaking your language, okay? It's very important. Let's do a little review here that we're not trying to eliminate negative stress. You cannot eliminate negative stress because there are lots of unknown variables that you don't know until they enter into the equation. So if you're trying to stop stress or you're trying to eliminate stress completely, then you're going to stress yourself out because you're going to find that there's no way to completely do it, okay? So go out, find somebody that's speaking your language, your specific language, that can feed you and get you where you need to go. All right, hopefully this message has been beneficial for you. There are 2 things that I want you to do. Firstly, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to be coming out with more information and videos that you don't want to miss. And secondly, go out to my Facebook page, go out to our page and like us. We are the Dynamic Leaders, okay? So guys, go out, have a great day and make it happen. Take care.